여보세요. Now, when I first saw the teaser for this latest G-I-DLE track, I Want That, it features like the opening measures, and I very clearly heard the established Lindgren stinger in there, right? And of course, as a Twice fan, we know that they've done a lot of great production work on some of Twice's best tracks, not just A-sides, so it's not limited to only the A-side singles. There are even some of the best B-sides, you know, from Twice's albums that feature Lindgren production on it. And it was quite an interesting proposition when I first saw this teaser for G-I-DLE's I Want That, because knowing that Soyeon herself will do production work on some of their tracks, so I thought, well, this will actually be pretty interesting. I don't know the specifics, like I don't know if she also worked on the production for this or contributed to it, or if she just completely turned the reins over to Lindgren, right, for their production work. Either way, I think it's an interesting, you know, team up, right? An interesting collaborative effort on the production side, even if it was mainly just Lindgren and the group G-I-DLE kind of just took care of the performance aspect of it, but that's still really cool. It's obviously Soyeon wouldn't work with somebody if she didn't, you know, respect the name, the established work, right? The credits that that they've already earned with their previous body of work. At least that's like my that's what I would expect from Soyeon, right? So I think this is actually going to be pretty awesome. But let's check it out for the first time here. I Want That from G-I-DLE.
I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, no BRB. I want the all matte big black SUV. I want that, I want that. I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we messy, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that. Don't stop, we run through the yellows. We go pedal to the metal, then on stage collecting the medals. We hearing no higher level. If you're wondering, I'm too hot for layers. See you only when I come up for air. Get your tongue tied. Now what to say? What?
I want you to fall, hardest of all, until the tears roll down your face. Say my name or nothing at all. I only want everything.
I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, no BRB. I want the all Mac big black SUV. I want that, I want that.
I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we maxing, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that.
Green light, stop doing nothing. Stop pushing, loosen my button. Show one seat for LA to London. This could turn into something. All up and down the coastline. If you wanna come in close, no I don't bite. Get over here and don't fight the moonlight.
I want you to fall, hardest of all, until the tears roll down your face. Say my name or nothing at all. I only want everything.
I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, no BRB. I want the all Mac big black SUV. I want that, I want that. I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we messy, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that.
On the PSYCHOTIC kind of love.
H-O-T-I-C kind of love. I want that on my OMG. I want that right now, no BRB. I want that on my big black SUV. I want that, yeah.
I want that oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that remix, you know, c'est la vie. I want that, I want that, yeah.
Was she dreaming? Was it a dream? Was it all a dream? Oh man. Okay, so production. Oh, this is. I never pay enough attention to these. You know, when you get like a credits shot at the conclusion of a video. Interesting that it's a an English track, right? Like the vocals all done in English. I don't know if I heard that before, because there's been a couple of like singles that were announced or albums that were announced, and it was like, okay, there's going to be actually an English track, but sounds really nice, man. There's some so that synth bass sound, right? It's a pattern that starts to get more subdivided as it goes through a measure. It starts off with a quarter note, then at the second beat it starts going into eighth notes, and on the fourth beats it actually brings in a 16th note, so you get this boom boom ba-doom boom boom ba-doo-doom, right? The lower parts that are the 1, 2, and 3 and 4 iana, right? And there's a little switch there from that bouncy low end synth bass up into the sort of higher pitches that play the 16th note rhythms on the last beat. And then you have the string sound that's doubling the vocal melody at the pre-chorus, and then we have a resolution going back into the hook section to bring back essentially that synth bass. Then is also like a theme or a motive that's going on musically within the mix. The vocal is very consistent throughout, like in the type of delivery, from the verse and in the hook sections. We get a rise in dynamics and a fuller vocal sound when we get to that pre-chorus section, which is probably the strongest harmony in the song, right? That's when the pre-chorus comes around. But it has a very driving, extremely punchy kind of groove to it, right? Especially that main thing that the synth is doing, and that kind of gives it its character. Like it's between that and what's going on in the vocal, all very electronic sounds except for the strings. And then of course, well, even the vocal has a little bit of effects on it, like some of the production work. Probably the strongest during the verse and hook sections. But it's an interesting video. I'm thinking, like, because of the ending, that this is like a dream sequence. A lot of the shots and scenes that are featured would make sense in that context. It's even kind of like the continuity of it seems like a dream, shifting from one scene or setting to another. It's actually not bad at representing that. If I think of, dreams that I myself have had, it's kind of shuffled like that. Like you'll be in one place, and then you'll be in a car, and then you'll be at another place, and it's like there's no real explanation for how you got there. Like there's not like mechanically you don't, you know, get into the car. Sometimes you don't get out of the car, you're just in it. Like you're kind of facing one way, and then, you know, it's like you blink or something, and then you're in another scene, in another setting. So actually that type of dream-like continuity is accomplished pretty well, like expressed actually pretty effectively in the way that the video is shot. Some diegetic sounds, the water, the birds. This is interesting because I'm like, it shows the foot and it's bleeding, and then it shows the gun. So metaphorically, it's like shot myself in the foot, something like that, you know? At least that's what I thought, like, initially.
I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, no BRB. I want the all matte big black SUV. I want that, I want that. I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, like you and me. I want that we messy, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that.
So the vocal rhythm is actually doing the same pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Iana, I want that, right? That's it's the same thing that's going on in that synth bass line. So see, that's a very strong rhythmic pattern. It's pretty much the main motive of the song, between verse and the actual chorus section.
Don't stop, we run through the yellows. We go pedal to the metal, then on stage collecting the medals. We hearing no higher level.
If you wondering, I'm
Two half layers.
see you only when I
Come up for air.
get your tongue tied.
Now what you say?
So a little bit of change up here, but it was interesting. The drums came in, the percussion came in, and started to. There's an accent on 2 and 4, so you have that punchy electronic snare sound over the 2nd and 4th beat, but the hat work is starting to kind of highlight the 8th note subdivision. It's the upbeat. So you hear 1 and 2 and it's tss, tss, tss. And then we have a shift in the vocal rhythms when, let's see, it feels like the subdivision moved to the beginning of the measure.
And on stage collecting the medals. We hearing no higher level.
If you wondering, I'm
Two half layers.
see you only when I
Come up for air.
Yeah, 1 again, a 2 and 3 and a 4. Okay.
get your tongue tied.
Now what you say?
So moving the 16th note, moving the shorter subdivisions over to the front, right, and giving a nice 16th note grouping up at the start of the measure. Actually, and we got a synth riser now.
I want you to fall, hardest of all, until the tears roll down your face. Say my name or nothing at all. I only want everything.
So big triplet groupings, right? Featured in the pre-chorus melody. You have this, oh man, so there's like a very huge bass sound. It's not this synth bass, you know, it's very different. It could be a plug-in, it could still be like an electronic sound or signal, but it isn't that kind of round, bouncy, very like concise bass sound that's used in that main theme or motive of the song. This is very huge, right? It starts to take on this symphonic quality in this pre-chorus section. Kind of matches up with the chapel imagery, you know, that sound and that setting or that scene have a bit of a thematic connection, you know, like they're sort of relative to one another. But this, and it built up on itself, because when the second half of that pre-chorus section, the sort of the second phrase of it, that's when the strings enter and they're panned left, sitting pretty high on left in the mix, and they're doubling what the vocal melody is doing as that pre-chorus section, the second half, from the start of the second half up until it reaches its conclusion and then goes into the hook section.
I want the oh my OMG. I want that right now, no BRB. I want the oh my big black SUV. I want that, I want that.
I want that oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we maxing, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that. Green light, stop doing nothing. Stop pushing, loosen my button. Show one seat from LA to London. This could turn into something. All up and down the coastline.
Beat drop, right? Second verse brings back that strong motive, right? Well, actually the chorus does, but they have put a little bit of variation in here by dropping the beat out at the end of the first phrase, the second verse. The vocal is, especially, well, during the chorus especially, it's got this measured kind of like deliberately restrained delivery, almost like they're trying to tell you a secret, or like, I just want you to know this, kind of. Like the delivery has that type of expressive character to it. It's almost like, you know, hey, I want that, you know, like it's, but they're just kind of like, it's a message for you, like for one person. And there's a little bit of, you know, there's probably some layering. I think what's going on is that there's a couple of the members who are singing the hook line, and they've been layered on top of one another, and there's some reverb and definitely some EQ work that's going on over these vocals to kind of accomplish the very smooth layering that's going on. But the deliveries have, from the raw recordings, right, the raw vocals, the delivery, the style on that expressive quality has to pretty much match, like from the start. The rest is just finer articulations of it.
If you wanna come in close, no, I don't bite. Get it over here and don't fight the moonlight.
Well, that was a nice vocal melody right there. That's that little. So we have variations in the mix as far as the percussion and bass, dropping the beat out a little bit, but we also have some embellishment and some flourishing on the vocal melody at the end of the second verse. Gets a little bit more free, right? It's a little bit more detached from that strong rhythm, that strong motive or theme. Oh, strings right from the start here. Oh, okay, so what we have is like really big orchestral sounding bass, right? Almost like, you know, something like a euphonium or something, really low end, right? And then there's some vocal harmonies that could actually be plugins. You know, you have like synth vocal and essentially playing the chords and the rhythm part, just holding out whole notes as if it was a choir, you know, outlining each chord in the progression. And then the strings came in at the very start this time, and they're actually much brighter. Like I caught it the second time around, really during the first listen, and it's because they're much brighter. Like they, in the first pre-chorus section, they didn't come in until the second half, and there was kind of you know, they kind of had a rising, you know, dynamic level where it was like, oh, string, and then, oh, okay, yeah, we got strings for sure, doubling the melody. But it starts here at the very beginning, and this starts to feel very full. There's a very, very big sound, man, going for that symphonic texture, right, by incorporating this brass bass sound, a choir-like harmony of rhythm, the chord progression in the rhythm section, and then highlighting over that with a really bright, strong string sound, and it's matching the vocal melodies again. Oh, it's a bass drum sound too. You can really hear it at the conclusion of that pre-chorus section with it boom, boom, boom. It's definitely a with a little bit of like a muted attack. It's not, because it's not really like super punchy, right? But it's the pocket of that bass drum hit is definitely there.
I want that right now, no BRB. I want that all Mac big black SUV. I want that, I want that, I want that, oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we messy, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that.
I want the PSYCHOTIC kind of love.
Oh, nice.
PSYCHOTIC kind of love.
Sorry.
I want the oh my.
Wonderful high note. Terrible place to stop it. That's an interesting thing because it's actually very emotional. Like, and it's spelling out, you know, this psychotic love, and it's really expressive at that. Like the way the vocal melody is done there. Those two lines that make up the two phrases of the pre-chorus section, and then of course it builds up to that really nice high note, an incredible high note at the end there, to really put a stamp on like that so each pre-chorus section becomes more expressive, right, as it takes on that symphonic type of quality overall. And we get varying degrees of change between each one. It gets stronger. It builds up to its highest point, very intentionally, right? And this, of course, syncing up with the visual, right? The scene here is very intense, right? It is the climax of this little story that is going on here. But it's an interesting thing, man, this to be the most emotional sort of expression, and it's lining up with this crazy lyric.
Right now, no BRB. I want that all Mac big black SUV. I want that, I want that, I want that, oh my OMG. I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we messy, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that.
I want the PSYCHOTIC kind of love.
PSYCHOTIC kind.
For first half pre-chorus phrase, you know, kind of gradually stepping up, and then a quick descent. Like it follows that line down. Second phrase is going to actually take it up. Oh, fantastic whole note. Like that high note was an entire measure. That's a great build-up. But what a it's crazy, right? The most melodic, expressive, emotional line, and it's talking about wanting a psychotic kind of love. Really interesting. Like, I mean, you know, it's G-I-DLE, so they come on strong, you know, like they don't really hold back. But this is just a really interesting lyrically, and also the way that the melody is done there. It was a build up to a fantastic peak of the song. Actually, this is the third act. This is like, you know, the climax and then the resolution, right?
My OMG, I want that right now, no BRB. I want that all Mac big black SUV. I want that, yeah. I want that oh my OMG. OMG, I want that right now, that you and me. I want that we maxing, no c'est la vie. I want that, I want that.
Interesting, man. Interesting. It was so you can go for me, right? I think back to like Twice Scientist, right? Because Lindgren likes to use these kind of round, bouncy synth sounds, right? And you can, you know, hear that, and then they will incorporate something like strings, like trumpets, sounds like that also. And I mean, there's sort of an evolution of their use of these type of sounds. If you go back, I have to reference the Twice stuff because that's what I'm most familiar with, you know. But you can chart it, even if you just look at Twice, right, and their discography. But and I don't know if it comes in before Formula of Love. It probably does, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Eyes Wide Open albums from before that had featured Lindgren production. But I can't remember off the top of my head if that's the case. But you can see the evolution and progression of these types of sounds in the way that they're incorporated into Lindgren tracks. And this, because the bass in this one, this really does kind of remind me of Set Me Free, right? If you listen, it's not exactly the same, no. And of course they're using different rhythms, it's a different line. But there's similarity in what you might call like the fundamental, like raw bass sound that's there. And this sort of, even the strings, even the incorporation of the strings, because that was also featured in Set Me Free. But they find a different way to do it, right, for another group, for another song. And but it's very intuitive, right? Like, okay, I can definitely see each time they come back with another track, you know, they kind of drive in a certain direction, and then perhaps, you know, at a certain point they'll go in another direction with it. And it's mainly a color tone type of change. Some things are brighter, some things are darker, depending on what the era is for Lindgren production. But it's definitely something that you can hear in this song for sure. It's a story though. The song tells a story, the mix tells a story, just with the way that it develops each pre-chorus section. It really does, like, you know, you get the most variations that occur in the pre-chorus section. You get this expansive richness in the mix itself, with how many different sounds are being featured at once within the measures of the pre-chorus section. We have many different tone, you know, ranges and sort of color ranges that are going on in the pre-chorus. And each one, by the time you get to the third one, it has built up to this incredible peak in the song. And even the lyric is insane, man. It's crazy. Yeah, you know, it's talking about wanting a psychotic kind of love, and that was actually really, really quite interesting. The most emotional and expressive part. So pushing further into the desire, the want of things, is accompanied by this, you know, this wild detachment from from reality, and this sort of willful like jump into the craziness of it, you know. And if you consider the difference between the vocal delivery for the verse and chorus to the pre-chorus, that's also like a, it's almost like a mood swing. Do you know what I mean? At first, that measured, deliberate sort of vocal delivery, that's kind of like something being expressed very directly and very sort of like personally, you know, telling somebody like, I want that, hey, I want that. And then each time it shifts to a pre-chorus, the dynamic ramps up, and it's more like they're shouting to get everybody's attention, right? To make a scene, right? So we have really what is being demonstrated in terms of a concept is kind of like a wild mood swing, like a wild shift between first being sort of calm and reserved and measured, and then being like really just expressive and sort of, you know, crying out or lashing out, and without any reservations, you know. And it definitely drives and builds up to a emphatic sort of climax, not just melodically but also lyrically. It was really interesting. It's intuitive as far as the group G-I-DLE. Like I would never want to get on their bad side, you know what I mean? I wouldn't want to be there. I can't imagine anything too productive can be accomplished from there. So, you know, but it's an interesting take, man. It's an interesting approach to it, and it's fun. It's fun. It seemed to me like between, if I look at, okay, Set Me Free, and then this track also, it does seem as though Lindgren production is like leaning into a more noir, darker type of feel, like the overall vibe, you know. Set Me Free and even this I Want That, they're really on the side of like the empowerment concepts, but the tone of everything is so dark, you know. Set Me Free has kind of an uplifting, you know, build up to it. It ends up being quite sort of graceful. This is a little bit more edgy, and it's a little bit more gritty, you know. And it all has to do with the balance between that very punchy, driving, gritty, like verse and chorus section, and the way that contrasts with the very expressive, melodic, and rich pre-chorus section. But it's an interesting work on both sides, for like G-I-DLE for their performance of this, and then also the way that the production is handled and approached. It really is quite an interesting, you know, demonstration of working with this type of concept. Yeah, it's good though. It's good. It's really good. I'm wondering, is this the, because I can't, so much stuff happens and I just can't remember. But was G-I-DLE's album intended to be an English album? I can't remember. I know there's a couple of albums that I've heard, you know, in recent times, and the things that are being released now, and it was like, no, they're going to do basically an English language album. I'm not sure if that's what this single like if the album is intended to be that way or not. But either way, it sounded really, really great. No, I mean, the pronunciation, you know, the articulations of everything, clean, like perfectly clean. It sounded really awesome. It doesn't matter to me, you know, like what language is it. It doesn't matter. I can enjoy it, but, you know, at any rate, it's just an interesting thing to note as far as their decisions of like what it is that they wanted to do. So that's the only reason why I'm curious about that. I'm gonna have to see if I can't find some articles or something about that to really nail that down. But this was like, it's both intuitive as a G-idle track, and it's also intuitive as far as the production on it as well. And so that's pretty cool. It continues to be this thing where it's like, I do have a certain anticipation or expectation of what it could be, but you know, you never know exactly, right? Like, you never know exactly how it's going to play out. It always ends up being enjoyable, though. Like, it's always really great work, and it just it continues to be that way. You know, since I started doing this, you know, it just that's kind of the main perspective, is like, I can come to have a level of familiarity, and I can come to expect certain things, but you cannot predict with any accuracy what it's going to be like. And that is what keeps it fun. Like, that's what keeps it really engaging. Not knowing what's going to happen for sure, but always being pleasantly surprised by whatever it is that comes out. And so, yeah, G-idle, I want that. Really interesting. I hope to see more collaborations on tracks like this, you know. I would definitely like to hear more work between G-idle and some Lindgren production. I think that would be, be awesome. I think there's, you know, because G-idle can do anything really. I mean, there's no you know, limitations. They can do, you know, something noir and gritty. They can do something very harmonic and ballady. They could do like anything. They can do anything because they have that level of ability. So it would be interesting to see, you know, with continued work, what they could come up with. But G-idle, I want that. It was really interesting, and yeah, just quite a provocative concept and expression of that concept for sure. But it was fun. I'm really interested in like the rest of the album. You know what I mean? As this feels like it was just the beginning. It feels like this was just a sample, right? And so it primes me for wanting to experience the rest of the album, for sure.